It's time for the big show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy Gallo.
And I'm Country Jim, affectionately known as CJ.
And our guest today is a good friend and a brother from another mother, Bill Ingram. Bill, glad to have you with us, man.
Well, hey, guys. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Bill and I met back in, I guess it's 79?
79, I think.
Yeah. And we were working at a little radio station here in Texas, in Cleveland, Texas, and we formed a relationship back then.
Yeah,
and,
we hit it off, and
we used to go out and eat at Sonic all the time.
I remember back during the lean days, we used to tease on payday that we were going to go to Boyette's restaurant and get our chicken fried steak out of layaway.
There you go.
That's funny.
Well, Bill, also you got some musical history. You play drums. When I first met you, you and another buddy of ours was doing a little band that y'all go out and play and everything. Tell us a little bit about that. A little bit.
I did that for years. Started playing when I was 10, and cut my first 4 records on toy drums that my dad bought me.
Oh, wow.
And my dad was a great guitar player, and he and I would get, and we had a studio in our house, and we'd get there in his studio, lay down the tracks, and I had an uncle who also had a studio in his house. We'd ship the tape off to my uncle. He'd finish it out, mix it down, and send us a copy of it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Say more about your dad as a musician.
Oh, my dad was an incredible guitar player and worked with everybody from George Jones to Bob Wills and everybody in between. But for years, he fronted the Harry Schultz Band. Harry, of course, was famous for Jolie Blonde, the national anthem of Louisiana.
Right. Yeah.
And he fronted the Harry Schultz Band. They did rodeo shows in San Antonio and WOAI. In Houston on KCRT, which later became KIKK, and then also KVOO in Tulsa, and on the Louisiana Hayride on KWKH.
Wow. How many years did he do that now?
All through the 30s and 40s. I'm not sure the exact years.
Right, yeah.
And what was his first name? We may have some...
His first name was Bill.
Oh, okay.
Common name. See, I'm a Bill too, and a lot of people don't know that, but I'm a
That's
Bill.
That's true. Yeah,
you know,
Bill.
My dad's a Bill, and Bill's a Bill, so we got Bills everywhere.
And some folks called him Willie, but most of the musicians.
But your name's not
called
William,
him Bill.
right? You don't have a William, right? You're
I'm
legal.
a William.
You are a William.
Yeah,
oh,
I'm
okay.
a William,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
not. See, that's what's interesting. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your mother?
Cool. My mom was great. Her name was Violet. We called her the Purple Flirp.
Affectionately, of course.
Affectionately, yes.
Yeah.
Did she?
She was a nut. She just fit in with everything. So
Was she musical?
No, she didn't play at all. She just liked to listen.
Yeah. And your dad passed away not too long ago.
Well, my dad passed away in 2000.
Okay.
We lost him in 2000. And that was devastating to me because he was my best friend. Yeah. I mean, we literally did everything together. We fished. We played music. We went grocery shopping together. I mean, we did everything together. Yeah. So when I lost him, it was a piece of me died too.
Sure.
And then my mom, we lost her in 2017. So and that was a big punch in the gut too. You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
But life goes on, and that's expected. I mean, they were getting up in age.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely there. Well, just a little bit. I know when you and I met in 1979, we were probably not the straightest arrows in the pouch. You know if you know what I mean.
You were very careful how to say that.
I know I was trying to be really cautious on that one, but you had a transformation. I would say I would call it that. Let's talk about your faith a little bit and how you transformed, or what was the turning point that you said, you know what, I need to be thinking more about other things than those other things or whatever. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I was working at KILT in 1991 and 92, And I became very good friends with Chuck Joseph, who was a big personality there.
Oh, yeah.
And although Chuck was a wild child himself, he was Christian.
Right.
And he was always trying to witness to me. And I'd tell him, Chuck, I don't want to hear about that, because I was running from God. I was running from God as hard as I could run.
And we all do.
Yeah. And he would still come back the next day. He'd just kind of laugh it off. He'd come back the next day and try to witness to me again. And I left Kilt in 1992. And during the time from there to 1995, I just kept thinking back to Chuck really was trying to get a message to me. Mm-hmm. And I started listening to the Christian radio station here, KSBJ. And that started kind of reinforcing some of the stuff that Chuck was trying to tell me. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine invited me to a Valentine's banquet at his Baptist church one night on Valentine's Day, and I'm standing in line in the food line, and found out the guy in front of me was the preacher of the church. And I just mentioned him. I said, preacher, I said, I need to know God, but I don't know how to go about it. Well, of course, he jumped on that, and he taught me through the sinner's prayer, and then that Sunday they baptized me,
Wow.
And so it was a transformation that started with me running from God as hard as I could. And I look back now and I realize God was running after me every step of the way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just how God works.
Trying to chase you down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'd never heard that story before.
Yeah,
you and I had not seen each other in quite some time, and then when we met up in the 90s again, the late 90s, then you had made that transformation.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and
that is
and it's not a transformation that you make and then boom, there you are.
Right.
It's a transformation you just continue to make.
You grow. Yeah. You grow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure.
Faith is a kind of a really remarkable thing about running from God and God then running after us, and then in your journey to actually become a God chaser, chasing after Him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So then did you transition to drumming gospel music?
No, I didn't. Actually, the only gospel music I ever actually played was doing drum tracks for a gospel singer. The Spears family was already established in Christian music, I think. But
and that was really before you had your transformation.
Oh, yeah, it was way before my transformation.
Yeah. Okay.
They just needed a drummer to do the drum tracks for the album, but
Right.
was Steve Spears was doing his first solo album, and I got a call, said, "Hey, can you do the drum tracks?" And I'm like, "Sure,"
Yeah.
And they had some pretty good musicians on the album. Robbie Springfield was on steel guitar, and he worked with Randy Corner there for years, and some other really heavyweight guys on the studio session. So it was a fun session to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, after 1979, you continued to play drums for quite some time?
Yeah, I did. I got a chance to work with Conway Twitty's son, Michael Twitty.
Okay.
And also got the chance to work with Carl Ballou, songwriter. Mm-hmm. He wrote Stop the World and Let Me Off and some other big hits. Mm-hmm. Worked with Dickie Lee. Mm-hmm. With Patches fame and 9,999,999 tears to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't get that one right, though.
Man.
You're looking at it going, wait a minute now, is that 9? What is that? I don't know.
So did you go on the road with those guys?
Didn't actually go on the road. I hated the road. I didn't like the road. But the
road tends to have potholes.
Yeah, big ones too sometimes. And so I worked around stayed in Texas, and worked wherever they needed me to go. But and then I worked with a guy named Eddie Bork, who just recently passed away. A good friend of mine. We had It was a Cajun. It was a country band, but we played a lot of Cajun music, and which is funny because my dad, worked with a Cajun fiddle player too. Yeah. But it was a fun time though working with them. But we worked so much. I was doing morning radio. I was getting up at 4:00 every morning, going in, doing a morning radio show. But we were working 5 and 6 nights a week.
That's when you was at KFRD? Or?
I was at KFRD. Yeah. Some of that was at Kilt. Some of that was at KJCH even.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were country DJ. Then I'm really interested in the gospel country movement.
Okay.
The Henson family, that I'm super big fans of their music. Mm-hmm. The Lighthouse was their biggest hit. They carried a pedal steel guitar on the road. And like I told you earlier, I saw a YouTube thing of them being on the Porter Wagoner show. Mm-hmm. Do you know much about that movement in country music, where they played country music style, but they did, and in fact a lot of them were original songs they wrote.
I always called it Southern gospel. I don't know if that's a real term or not.
I think that was the original term, and then as the 80s progressed, there was this thing that they called country gospel.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember getting some stuff in occasionally at some radio stations I worked at, and they were labeling it. They were trying to get some more airplay.
I remember when you and I were at KJCH back in our Cleveland days in the late 70s. Before we went on the air, at 5 or 5:30, something like that. And for the first hour or so, we played a country gospel format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how I got familiar with some of those Southern gospel groups. Mm-hmm. Is that we had a collection of albums that we would just select music from those albums and play that. Mm-hmm. And I really liked it. I loved the harmonies and the guitar work and everything that went into it. Some of it even had a bluegrass feel,
Right.
And I loved all that.
Yes.
So the style of music I always liked. Mm-hmm. And, of course, it fit right in with country music because country music has deep roots, as you guys know, with the gospel music.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the Grand Ole Opry on WSM, they actually do a gospel set, Right. Oh, yeah. And so it was something that I really fell in love with the way the music sounded. Mm-hmm. I actually even liked what it said, even though I was running from God at that time. Mm-hmm. I even liked what the music said, what the lyrics said. But as I got older, and again, my meeting with Chuck Joseph and all of the enforcement that he gave me, and then finally coming to know Christ in 1995, by that time, I was really starved for Christian music. Mm-hmm. And although the radio station I'm at now doesn't actually play Southern gospel, we're a contemporary station, I still like the Southern gospel music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I still listen to it.
Yeah, just to make mention, that's KSBJ in Houston, Texas. So, because we do have listeners in, believe it or not, Singapore and the Great Britain. So we just let them know where we're at here. So, but your journey into KSBJ, you've been there. You celebrated just not long ago. How long was
25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, the radio station just celebrated their 40th birthday,
Isn't that crazy?
I just celebrated my 25th anniversary there.
And that station consistently is always in at least the top 3.
We're in the top 5.
Top 5, okay,
consistently.
okay.
We and that's really good for a market this size,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we are blessed that God has given us listeners that love us that much. And
Sure.
Keep us up
Absolutely.
there.
I think it's a big influence. I mean, churches that I've been connected with, they're whatever kind of choral group, musical group they had, they would do songs because they knew that the parishioners out there listened to KSBJ and would want to hear and sing along with Chris Tomlin's song.
Right.
And by the way, my daughter, Miss Leslie, who's been on here, she played fiddle for Chris Tomlin.
He's a great guy. He started writing with some of the country acts. He's been writing with what is it, Lady Antebellum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lady A.
Lady A, yeah. He did some writing with them and some other country groups.
I think he grew up in as a youngster in a family bluegrass band. I might be wrong about that.
I think you're right, though. I think I've heard that. Yeah. I think I've heard
I accidentally had dinner with him one night.
Accidentally.
He was the headliner at the show. And I was there with the radio station. We were doing a live broadcast. I was in charge of setting that up and making sure everything went good on the air. And then after the live broadcast, I went back to the catering room where they served dinner. And I'm in line, and I look up, and Chris Tomlin's right in front of me. We got to talking, and he said, well, why don't you come and sit at the table with us, So I'm at the table with his family.
That's awesome.
And ate dinner.
That's pretty good.
And it was really an honor, but he was just a regular guy,
And did you know who he was when he invited you?
Yeah, I knew
okay.
what he looked like. He had been to the radio station, and I'd met
you.
him once before.
Okay.
He had been there for an interview or something, And
That's cool.
You know where he's from? I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't
know.
Because he was here in Houston at the United Methodist Church in the Woodlands.
He used to live in the Woodlands. I know that. I don't know where he's from originally, though.
No, that's pretty cool.
Well, tell us about those. How long? You say you've been there 25 years. Any remembrances of the years at KSBJ as far as?
Oh yeah.
You want to share some of those stories?
I have a lot of stories. One of my favorite stories was about Buddy Holliday. He was the guy that actually made KSBJ happen. He was the one that did all the blood, sweat, and tears getting it on the air. He was also the morning man. He did the morning show. And he had a character called the Old Timer. And when they first hired me there, they put me producing for Buddy on the morning show. And that wasn't good for Buddy, because I'm not a good producer. Matter of fact, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm probably the world's worst producer. Well, Buddy wanted to do this bit with the Old Timer, and he gave me all these sound effects. And back then, we didn't have the computers like we do now. It was like you had a disc that went in this machine, a disc that went in this machine, and this machine, and so forth. And you had to fire everything off in the correct order. Mm-hmm. So he was giving me instruction on this. We get into the bit, and I get it all messed up. And I'm playing the wrong sound effects at the wrong time. And Buddy was a sweetheart. We got through the bit. He looked at me, and we, fired up the next song after the bit. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it now,
Right,
and
right.
Buddy took his headphones off. He goes, timing is everything. And that's the last I heard about it. I didn't
That's
hear
funny.
it.
That is a funny story. Now, when you first went there, you wasn't on the air, was you, or was you?
Yeah, I actually was.
Was you? Okay.
They put me on doing mid mornings at first, 9 to noon.
Okay.
And I did that for a few months. Worked Buddy's producing there for a couple of weeks. That didn't work out. I don't know why.
Sound like you were promoted though after that, instead of demoted.
Or demoted, I'm not sure.
They found another job for you.
But they eventually put me on the evening shift, 7 to midnight, and I did that for several years.
Okay.
And then we bought that big old broadcast van we had, and they found out nobody had experience with a broadcast van except me.
Right.
And I'd done that at every radio station I'd worked for. So they threw the keys to me. They said, okay, you're it, And so it was my job at that point to get that out on the street. And I did that for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I bet that was an interesting job.
And that's kind of where I was going, because I was thinking that you had taken care of the remote situation, which to me, that's big. I remember when we used to go out, and you probably remember the days when you would go out. You're the talent, you're the engineer, and you're the guy that drives the rig, and
you're in charge of everything.
Yeah, and you set it all up by yourself. And let me tell you what, that is like. And then then you still got to do your
you still got to do the on-air work.
Yeah, you still got to do that, and you're by that time you're wore out. So I remember doing that a whole lot though.
Yeah, I did that every day. I did a remote every day.
Wow.
With few exceptions.
Yeah.
It was.
You would go typically to churches, or you would
It would depended on the situation. Sometimes churches, if they had a concert or something like that we could promote. Sometimes it would be more of a just a, hey, I'm out here in the parking lot of Greens Point Mall, and I've got some prizes I had some of the bookstores that would donate prizes to me.
Okay.
And I just mentioned their name on the air,
Sure.
Yeah.
And
And I always kept Bibles on the truck, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Men and ladies' Bibles, because you never knew when you were going to have the opportunity to witness to somebody that
Sure.
needed to be coached and loved on. And you could tell them about the love of God, and that's one thing, but read this. And I'd always tell them, start in the book of John.
And work your way backwards.
That's right.
So that's good, though. Now, just a little bit off of the faith a little bit. Now, as drumming went, how long or when was the last time that you worked a job, probably drum?
I got burned out. The late 80s really started getting to me. I mentioned before that, I was doing morning radio, too.
Yeah.
And I'm up late at night, and I'm, getting about 2 or 3 hours of sleep. And that's not, mathematically I'm no genius, but, your body eventually says, hey, man, you got to do something here. Yeah. Well, about 1989, the very end of 1989, matter of fact, my last gig was New Year's Eve of 1989, 1990.
Now, do you still have your kit? You still have your set, your drum set? Or?
I still have one of them. I had 2 kits. I had a Ludwig kit that I had custom made when I was 15. It's maple shells, and it's a sweet kit. I still have that one. And then I had a Pearl kit, who I gave away.
So do you have it set up at your house so you can get in there and nope?
No. I don't play anymore. I haven't played in years now. Yeah. And to be really honest, I don't miss it.
Right.
And it's a shame because at one time it was my life.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I remember when I first met you, you and our buddy Jim had a little ensemble that y'all would go out and play gigs and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I worked with a lot of different bands, and Jim German was part of that. Eddie Bork and all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Did you sing any?
One time. I got a story about that if I have to. We have
sure. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, go.
We're on stage. They were always trying to get me to sing. And I'm like, guys, I can't sing. And they said, oh, man, you can sing. Anybody can sing. You haven't heard me. So I knew I couldn't do a serious song at all. So I said, okay, we're going to do My Ding-a-Ling by Chuck Berry.
Oh, yeah.
And I sing my little heart out on that.
Yeah.
And I'm back there on the drums singing my little heart out on My Ding-a-Ling. And at the end of it, everybody in the band looked back around at me and they said, you're right, man, you can't sing.
Don't give up your day job.
Right. That was the last of my singing career.
Well, what do you see for now and tomorrow in your journey?
I hope that God lets me continue to do what I'm doing. I was honored back in 2017. They inducted me into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
Yep.
And when they did that, the next day, my bosses called me into the office. And they said, usually when somebody reaches that point in the career, they start thinking about retirement. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, don't get your hopes up. I have no plans to retire.
Right.
If you want me out of here, you got to run me out on a rail.
Right. And radio stations tend to do that, except yours. That's a different ball game.
Yeah, it is a whole different ball game. And that's one reason I've been there 25 years is the climate there is very good, and the people are great. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great place to work. So...
very good.
And you know me. I mean, I worked at one radio station 55 minutes. I don't.
Been there, done that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have tolerance to be treated poorly. Mm-hmm. And if I'm treated poorly, I'm out of there.
Absolutely.
So they've treated me very good for 25 years, and I'm grateful for that.
That's wonderful.
That is cool. Anything else, CJ?
No, I've really enjoyed this a lot.
Me too. I was thinking back when I first started the podcast, before you even were part of it. I said, I need to get Bill in here because you have a musical past, and actually or you have known or worked with a lot of people in the country industry, and that's something that.
Well, you get to do that when in this business, and you know that. Mm-hmm. You get to do that and meet people that you wouldn't normally get to meet, mm-hmm. that you do admire,
Sure.
And so it's a blessing to be able to do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, partner, I appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for inviting me on. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, we'll see y'all on the next one.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to The Big Show with Andy Gallo and Country Jim.
This has been a Unicap Media presentation.